Hello all, as you can tell by the title of this video, my time within Will2W has come to a somewhat unfortunate end. For those who don't know, Will2W has been a long time series of the channel dating back to when I first started it. The league is currently in its 14th season, with me being a member of the league since season 2. For the majority of my time within the league, I enjoyed being there, the people I met along the way, the growth of my driving pace and racecraft, and most importantly the racing competitiveness as well. During my time I worked through the divisions from the lowest to at one stage the quickest division in the league. I was never within a real shout to win a title, but with the current 14th season was my closest shout I've ever had to win a title within the league. Unfortunately, I've also believed that this is a season that was a major step backwards for the league, with the rules, stewards' verdicts that had come out and overall image of the league. In this video, I will go more in depth over this season and how I felt I was wronged with some of the reports that I was penalised for, and how I'm accused of refusing to accept any form of penalties given out by the stewards and how they have become biased. Some of the rules within the league and how I think it kills any form of racing, the sponsors of the league and in my opinion are getting ripped off with these deals they have made with the Will2W, and how the admins thought it would be a good idea to dictate the attendance of drivers because of these sponsors. We'll also talk about how this league has changed from something that used to kill time on a Sunday to a league that now asks for so much attention that it affects your social life outside of video games, purely because of how this league is set up and asks for too much of your attention throughout the week before race day, and why leaving the league might be better suited for myself. Firstly, let's address the biggest issue, the stewards. I've been accused of failing to accept the penalties that have been getting thrown my way, and I believe this is false. I've been successfully reported 6 times within the season, and out of those 6 times I will only agree with the stewards on half of those penalties. Let's go through each penalty and why I believe the stewards got it wrong in some cases. The first incident was at Blue Moon at the start of the season, where I gave a bump to the driver ahead of me who went into the wall. For this I was given a Cat 4 penalty, the 4th highest penalty out of the 6 that stewards could give to a driver. Now, did I agree with this decision from the stewards? Somewhat yes. It was known that the driver ahead of me was lagging, and this was also flagged by a steward of the lag throughout the entirety of the round. However, the stewards argued that at the specific time of the incident the driver wasn't lagging in the replays. The problem with that is that replays nullify a driver's lag to a severe extent unless said driver is experiencing extreme forms of lag, to which this driver ahead of me wasn't. But the driver was lagging enough to make racing close even slightly more difficult. What the stewards should be doing is going through my footage and not the replay, as this would show the raw experience that I had to deal with. Should I have backed off a little bit and not followed as closely? Yes, definitely. That's where I'll accept the blame for the penalty. So in short, yes, I agree with the decision of the penalty, but I also believe the stewards should take a different approach to lag related incidents. The second incident is where the first of the differences lie between me and the stewards. We can see that I hit the Nissan in front of me. I accept the decision was made by the stewards that I did hit the driver ahead of off track, even though I was bumped from behind. This was ultimately caused by me making a late move just before hitting the braking zone, causing the car behind me to hit me. However, this is where the similarity between me and the stewards differ. The Nissan driver had only run wide and was still within control of the car, until his own teammate came into picture and hit the Nissan into a spin. The stewards had also decided this was my own wrongdoing. How can this be my fault that a different driver hit the driver off track and put him into a spin? I am only responsible for hitting him off track, not putting me into a spin. If anything, this should have been not a Cat 4 penalty, which was what the steward had given me, but only a Cat 2, as I had done a minor incident with no redress. This is exactly the type of category that a steward should have given me for this type of contact. However, for some weird reason, the steward decided I was responsible for all of what had happened to the Nissan driver, even though when he was hit by his own teammate, he was already within control and ready and getting back up to speed with the other drivers. The third incident is where I believe a penalty was forced by the other driver as they closed the door into a corner, fully knowing I was going to make a move there. This also introduces a rule that I believe should be removed from the league, and that is the B-pillar rule when overtaking. The B-pillar rule, in my opinion, deters from any form of hard racing and exciting overtakes. It's simple, if the move is on, then it's on. It can only be a problem if the defending driver has to take evasive action to avoid contact or result in contact that was forced by the attacking driver only. Not in this case, where the Nissan ahead of me forces the contact by closing the door. This resulted in a Cat 2 penalty that again I didn't agree with. On to the fourth incident, which is the most controversial of all incidents in this video. We see the VW Beetle making a massive change in direction, leading to a big braking zone. This catches the McLaren out, who starts to turn slightly towards the right side of the track and also takes the Ferrari with it as well. Now where am I in all this? Slightly further back, having already predicted what is going to unfold and decided to go for a gap to the far right of the track to take evasive action. Having stayed in line behind the drivers ahead and braking early would have raised the risk of possibly catching out the drivers behind me and forcing collision. When I took the far outside of the track, the space was there, not for me to overtake but for me to find myself in a nice space on track to avoid collision. Unfortunately, the moment I went into that spot, the door was closed by the two other drivers to my left, who I'd mentioned earlier who had made a move to avoid the leading driver contact. Did I miss my braking marker? Possibly, but I was the only car on the quickest tire, so I had the ability to brake a bit later than everyone else. I'll give the stewards the benefit of the doubt that I was at fault for having also braked on the side of the track that I was unfamiliar with prior to the race, possibly extending my braking distance more than I thought I had needed to. Although I don't agree with the severity of the penalty, which was the worst that you could be given as a driver as a Cat 6. In my opinion, there was a bit of everything and not just me to blame. You had the lead driver make a sudden change of direction and drivers behind making line changes because of it. This was also agreed to be a racing incident by the McLaren driver who was a victim of the incident, and other drivers who said it was just a mess. So in this case, if it was to be given a penalty, it should have only been a category 3 to 4. In the second last incident, I completely agreed with the steward's verdict on my poor Regis back on track, and even admitted before the verdict had come out to a steward that I was ready to accept whatever penalty had come out of it. The last incident I disagreed with to an extent. We can see that I am bumping the VW to the left of me, which is a no-no in the rules. Again, a rule that I believe should be removed or at least reviewed, as any sort of contact is apparently not allowed. Again, I believe this is deterring any form of hard racing and just really kills the sport. I'll accept the bumping, but the failure of the other driver to miss his braking marker coming to the chicane while still trying to make contact and push me back over is where I argue my differences. It is not my problem that the VW driver not only misses his braking marker but also turns into me thinking I'm going to return to the racing line. For this, I was given a Cat 4 penalty, which I argue should have been realistically only a Cat 1 to 2. This was further strengthened by a comment after I had posted the incident on Reddit backing my claim. So out of all the mentioned incidents, I agreed with incidents 1, 4 and 5, with 4 being severity, the only thing I would disagree with. I only disagreed with on 2, 3 and 6. This means that I only disagreed with the stewards on half of the penalties given. The league made out that I never agreed with anything the stewards had said, which proves to be false. They have also been unconsciously biased in their verdicts, which is a massive problem as they flat out refuse to believe there is any form of bias between the stewards. Proof of this can be seen within an incident where a driver retaliated and took out a driver in a race. The driver even admitted to his own team that he retaliated and was even spread to other drivers that his form of unacceptable behavior was known. So what did the stewards do when they found out that there were rumors of retaliation from a driver? Nothing. Not a single fucking thing except put out a reminder to the league. But in the season before where I retaliated, I had my points for that round removed and was also given a 1 race ban. So why did the stewards not give the other driver the exact same consequences for the exact same action that I did? Because they declared it was hearsay. Did they ask the driver if it was true? No, because why would they? Even though the driver literally admitted to the team that he retaliated poorly in a race. It can't be more obvious than that. Other examples can be when my team was given a warning for wasting stewards' time for an incident that we reported, and they'd also deemed non-reportable. And further incidents resulted in us being given a penalty if the stewards thought we wasted their time again. But there was an incident that was reported by another team earlier in that season for having a driver burn their penalty on the racing line, which is against the rules. And what did the stewards say? There is nothing to penalise, but no warning was given for them to wasting their time. I understand that these stewards are volunteers who have given up their free time for this league, and I can respect that. But I don't respect some of their decisions, noting as well that the stewards that they can't expect every driver to be okay with their decision and just accept it quietly. It happens in real life where drivers will publicly voice their concerns with ruling and penalties in a way that the organization will not like. It happens, and it is something the league and the stewards have to accept. Regardless if they are volunteers, this is something they have to be aware of when stepping up to the plate. Onto another reason why in my opinion the league has gone backwards is its sponsors and how it's dictated the attendance of its drivers. Firstly, when a league thinks it's fit for its time to keep a league running be worth the money, that's when the league is being overworked and should be more simplified. The league was fine before money started to become a factor to keep it maintained, and the league has now taken paths of giveaways, raffles and competitions with sponsors packages. At the end of the day, this is a Sunday racing league and should be nothing more. This is a hobby, not a business. Secondly, this league runs on a game that is dwarfed by the giants of sim racing such as ACC and iRacing. GT7 is a semi-sim racing game that almost anyone can jump into and get a decent idea of car control. The same cannot be said for ACC and iRacing, where months and even years of practice is needed to be at the same competitive level as GT7. The league then decides to take it upon themselves to penalise drivers for failing to attend and even going over the allowed allocation of reserve drivers' uses for a season, which was 4. If a driver failed to no-show for a round, not only will the driver not score any points for that round, but they would also be hit with the most severe penalty, which was a Cat 6. Once a driver has used more than his 4 allowances, it would then be given a scaled penalty starting at Category 3, and would work its way up from Category 4, 5 and finally 6 for each time the driver used it further reserves. And why was this the case? Not because of pure attendance, but because of sponsors, who I guarantee couldn't give 2 fucks about 2 or so drivers not showing up on a roughly 36 drivers each weekend. All they care about is 2 things. Is the company logo on the car? Yes. Did we get shouted out in the midstream break? Yes, that's it. That's all they care about. A company is in no position to be taken on as a sponsor, but only accepting it on the sponsor's terms. I guarantee that the sponsors themselves don't even know that the league was penalising drivers for not showing up on a race day because of them. They couldn't care less about 2 or so drivers not rocking up per week, and if they did, then they're in the wrong business to be thinking about that when wanting to work with sim racing leagues. And no, I'm sorry, but the league has $2,000 worth of sponsors, and these sponsors are getting ripped off big time. Each week the channel only averages around 250 views across 2 streams, which bring in 200 views, and a hot lap which on a good day will only average 50 or so views from the week. The majority of these views are from members who are already within the league. It barely reaches out to a new audience. This league also promotes its hot laps and says they wouldn't be possible with the help of its sponsors. Really? The sponsors made it possible? Not the person who does the outro and the intro, and the person who most importantly does the hot lap? Do those 2 people get any form of payout from the league sponsorship money? Nope. Do the commentators that make the streams watchable and are the main form of league attraction? Nope, not a penny. So where does this sponsorship money go? To what? Giveaways that could only amount to half of the sponsorship money at best, and 2 or 3 regattas that would realistically only cost $150 each. In the worst case scenario, there's still a couple $100 to be spread, and it doesn't even go to those who expand the league on social platforms. So there's my little rant about the league, and the question is, will I go back? Probably not. The league has major problems to fix, and I don't think they can be addressed within the space of a season or 2. There's also, as previously mentioned, this league has become too demanding with how much time is required on a week-to-week basis to still be somewhat competitive. Gone are the days of being able to rock up on race day with minimal practice and still turn out a decent result. Now there are drivers who will practice for the next round straight after finishing the current on the same night, and even then you aren't guaranteed a first place finish. The league also keeps changing its formatting with season length and how the season will be run with a number of manufacturers and reserves. It also becomes too confusing, just shows the league that can never stick to one idea. The best season were the ones pre-changeover of ownership of wheel-to-wheel league. Racing was simple, and that's all it was, racing. No sponsors, no attendance requirements, constant changes of season structure that showed no consistency. 12 round season with 1 manufacturer for the entirety of the season. No manufacturer changes halfway through, and 18 round long seasons that left drivers already wishing the season was over by the mid-season break. That's how a league loses its drivers, and it showed. Other drivers have also decided that they were done with the league after the season break. Even I had decided it was enough because of how boring the season got and being forced to race to avoid attendance penalties. To the league I say this: thanks for the memories, the racing and the friends I made along the way. Unfortunately, my brutal and bluntly honest reflection of the league is something that needs to be said. It may not have been the most gracious way of saying it, but during a season where it's been my best chances of winning the championship, it's just the way it is. So what's in store for me now? Well, I've always taken an interest in returning to live streaming sport mode races on GT7, and maybe even making a video here and there of a sport mode race that got interesting. There's also the possibility of me making a return to iRacing, where in my opinion is the peak of sim racing, as it requires the highest level of concentration and skill compared to GT7. If I ever go back to league racing, it would probably be with Sector 1, who also play GT7, starting fresh, because I doubt I'll ever be let back into wheel-to-wheel once they watch this video. And that's fine, because at this time I want nothing to do with the league, who just suppress anyone who tries to give feedback in a way they don't like. Feedback is feedback, no matter how it comes across. The league didn't even have the decency of talking to me privately with what they thought of as accusations, only blatantly telling me to hush, and if I didn't I would face bans and suspensions. The league only wants to hear certain types of feedback from drivers, such as the type of formats and next seasons. But if it has anything to do with the stewards, be prepared to face consequences. That's not feedback, that's just selective feedback, and that's not how a league should be operating. So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. With all that being said guys, I'll catch you in the next one.